What's up, basketball fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. There was some big news coming out yesterday regarding the Raptors that apparently OG Anunoby wants out of Toronto. I'm going to be breaking that down for you guys. I'm also going to be discussing another article that came out yesterday that revealed how much the Raptors would expect back for OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam and how they rejected this huge offer from a mysterious team. I'm also going to be discussing this cryptic post by a Trent Jr., which I will be breaking down as well. So if you're ready to watch this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you wish to hit the subscribe button as well, that would be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, unfortunately, there is no shout out for today's video because, well, no one asked for it. I was offering free shout outs in my last video, but no one had asked in the comment section. But let me play this video for you guys. This is Bob McCowan. For those who are not familiar, he's been around Toronto sports for quite some time. I remember watching him as a teenager around 2005, I believe, which is when he started working for Sportsnet. But let me play this video for you guys and I'll break it down.
Hey, I talked to an insider in the NBA.
Yeah.
Yesterday on the phone. Just by accident, he called me. He's a guy I've known for several years. He tells me that Anunoby wants out of Toronto.
What?
Anunoby wants out.
Now, I think it's safe to say that this took a lot of people by surprise because the first thing people were saying is, how does Bob McCowan have these insider information or these friends that know NBA information? First thing I will say, guys, before people claim it's fake reports or it's false news, is Bob McCowan. I've known and watched him for quite some time, and he's not the type of person to make up fake news. He's not the type of person to attract attention to himself by making things up. So before people state that he's just making things up to get attention, he's a nobody. He has his sources around the sports world. That's all I'll say. He's been around for quite some time. He is someone that covers sports in general, Toronto sports in general as well. So I don't think before people claim that he's making these stuff up, he's not the type of person to do that. Take my word for it. I've been watching him for quite some time, and it's not like you hear him say ridiculous things like this about trade rumors. So this is not one of those cases where it's just a reporter making things up. But this is obviously quite interesting and one to discuss. Now, let's talk about the OG Anunoby situation, why he would want to come out and leave an organization like the Raptors. Now, I believe the real reason that if this is true, the reason OG Anunoby may want out of Toronto is because his role just has not simply increased over the years. And to fully understand this, I'm going to go back to when he was drafted. I believe it was 2017-18 was his first season with the Raptors, and he essentially was placed in the corner, expected to shoot threes and be a good defender. Again, as the years progressed and DeMar got traded, Kawhi kind of pushed him into the bench role position. He was actually starting with the Raptors the season prior, and once Kawhi left, other guys stepped up as well. So he hasn't really, it's almost been 7 seasons that he's been with the Raptors. In those 7 seasons, he has not become the second or third option in any of those seasons. So you can understand where the frustration comes from for someone like a young player. I know he has his flaws offensively, but he hasn't really gotten the opportunity to work through his flaws in terms of just him making mistakes and him being allowed to grow. Like when Kyle Lowry finally got traded, the Raptors did get Trent Jr. just before that season. And obviously we know Trent Jr. likes to shoot a lot. And once Kyle Lowry left, Fred VanVleet was taking a lot more shots as well because he was the main point guard. But then you have Scottie Barnes who came into the picture. So all of a sudden now it's Pascal Siakam, Scottie Barnes, and Fred VanVleet who are taking the most shots. And then Trent Jr. often, most times on very many nights, he's taking the third most shots on this team as well. So that leaves OG Anunoby in a really weird situation where he's on most nights a 4th and 5th option. And you could understand his frustration as a young 25-year-old that wants to progress. I know people are throwing a lot of hate towards OG Anunoby saying he can't do this. And that is true. He's not a really good offensive player. If you talk about isolation game, like he doesn't have a very good isolation game, but you can still understand his frustration as to why he would want a bigger role. And that just seems to never come to him because it seems like every season some players are moved, some players were brought in, and they kind of took over that role. One thing I will state though with this OG Anunoby trade rumors is, to a certain degree, I'm not saying it's OG Anunoby's fault, but to a certain degree, as an NBA player, you have to be a little bit more assertive. And that is something actually Nick Nurse has pointed about in the offseason when there were trade rumors about OG Anunoby as well. He said, well, that's up to OG Anunoby. I believe that was Nick Nurse or Masai Ujiri that stated OG Anunoby needs a bigger role, but that's also up to him, indicating that he needs to be a little bit more assertive. I say this because when you take a look back as to when Pascal really shined in this league, he was in that season, the championship run season. You saw what Pascal Siakam did. He got the ball. He became very assertive with it. And that has not been the case with OG Anunoby, where it seems like he'll take 3-point shots and he'll get the ball and he'll just pass it off. So that's just why I think OG Anunoby would possibly want out of Toronto. Another reason I can't emphasize enough on this is my dislike for Rich Paul. We know which agency he runs. That is Clutch Sports. Gary Trent Jr. is also with that agency, and it's not a coincidence that the Raptors are apparently trading or looking to trade Gary Trent Jr. as well. So again, that agency is all about the players, and which is a fine thing. But you look at some of their clients, none of the players have really stuck with teams for a long time. And they just kind of, I don't know what they fill their client's head with, but they obviously preach that money first over loyalty. And maybe that's the case. Again, that agency is always up to no good. I'm not a big fan of Rich Paul, not a big fan of Clutch Sports either. And it seems like maybe they have perhaps gotten to OG Anunoby and convinced him that he needs a bigger role in order to make more money. And perhaps that is why OG Anunoby wants out of Toronto. Again, we don't know the trade rumors until OG Anunoby actually comes out and says that I don't want to be on the Raptors. I know he said that in the offseason, but that is a different scenario. Maybe his frustration has grown in the last 6 months or so. But also when you think about the Raptors trade rumors as well, guys, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? That's what they say. So yes, the Raptors are apparently trying to trade him to Portland. And then there are some reports that there was false, but maybe take this into consideration. The Raptors do not leak information. We know this, that they are a very tight-knitted organization that almost never leaks information. But what if it was a case that OG Anunoby perhaps went to the Raptors this offseason, that he wanted to be traded, and then all of a sudden these rumors came out and the Raptors lost leverage? Anytime an NBA player requests a trade, you lose leverage in a trade because the other teams will always have the upper hand, even though he is under contract. And maybe the Raptors said, hey, you got to go out and tell them you don't wish to be traded, because when you tell other teams that you don't wish to trade a player, they're really going to up the offer. So again, I think it's just one of those cases with maybe the OG Anunoby coming out and stating that he's happy with the Raptors. I don't know, guys. I'm assuming my thoughts are just going crazy. I'm trying to figure out why OG Anunoby would want out of Toronto as well. But those are just some of the reasons. Let's talk about the next news here. Now, this was being reported by the Ringer's Kevin Connor that stated that the Raptors will move Siakam. He doubts that the Raptors will move Siakam or OG Anunoby unless the return is enormous. Think 2 or 3 unprotected first-round picks or young players of near equal talent, but it's more probable that Fred VanVleet or Gary Trent Jr. will be moved since they are less talented and can become free agents this summer. Now, obviously, this is not surprising. The Raptors value OG Anunoby very highly. And one thing I will say, this is a different situation than, let's say, when two teams are trying to acquire a shooting guard or they're trying to acquire some sort of shooting. Like in terms of when you have a need for certain things, you can just acquire different types of player for shooting. But OG Anunoby is not one of those players that only a few teams need or only contending teams need. He's 25 years old. He's 6'7", a really good defensive player that is getting better and better each season offensively. He's also under a really reasonable contract. So it's one of those situations that it may not just be contending teams, but even rebuilding teams that would want OG Anunoby. He's a player you can honestly fill out and position in any starting lineup around the NBA, and he would fit in perfectly. So obviously, the Raptors value him very highly. It's a seller's market, so understandable that the Raptors would want multiple picks and young players as well. But it's very ironic that article came out because there's some news yesterday morning that came out that Toronto turned down apparently 3 first-round picks for OG Anunoby. This was being reported by Bruce Author, and shout out to Rhapsody on Instagram for reporting this as well. And the article went on to state, it's unclear exactly what the asking price is for Toronto's 25-year-old 3-and-D forward, but the team previously turned down 3 first-round picks for Anunoby. According to Toronto star Bruce Arthur, league sources reportedly believe the Raptors are looking for 2 promising players on team-friendly contracts and at least 1 draft pick, per Doug Smith of Toronto Star. So obviously it's a little bit confusing. Like, this report came out yesterday morning, and then you heard this news yesterday evening that the Raptors are apparently OG wants out of Toronto, and then these reports came out that apparently the Raptors rejected these 3 first-round picks. So some really conflicting news regarding the Raptors as well. But I did want to show this one tweet before we move on to the Gary Trent Cryptic tweet or Cryptic IG post as well. And this was on Twitter, stating that Raptors reportedly will only listen to offers on OG Anunoby unless it mirrors a DeJounte Murray-like package, including multiple unprotected first-round picks. Anunoby, Paul George, and Jimmy Butler are the only wings averaging at least 15 points and 1.5 steals since 2020-2021, which just tells you. And again, OG Anunoby is much younger than Paul George and Jimmy Butler as well. Obviously, his talent-wise, he's not there compared to those 2 players, but he's still a very valuable player. And you can understand why the Raptors value him very highly. Again, this is disappointing news as a Raptors fan, if I'm being completely honest. OG Anunoby is literally the perfect player, the perfect role model player for young players when you think about it. He's someone that doesn't create a lot of nonsense on and off the court. He's someone that gets the job done. Seems like he almost never complains. Like you'll never see him complaining. He also works really, really hard on the court. You often see anyone who's watched even one Raptors game will tell you see him huffing and puffing almost every few minutes because he's giving it his all. He's also a really good defensive player. He just seems like a good human being overall. And it's unfortunate. Again, I really hope these rumors turn out to be false, but it's very unfortunate that these rumors have come out that maybe he wants out of Toronto. But I wouldn't, for one, would not blame him. Again, for those reasons I listed. But let's talk about Gary Trent Jr. and his cryptic IG post. Now, Gary Trent Jr. had posted this on Instagram yesterday saying it's already written with two hands folded and a pen mark, which looks like it could be a signature, whatever. Now, I will say there's a few speculations going around as to what this could mean. Maybe it's already written that he is going to be moved, that maybe the Raptors are upfront with Gary Trent Jr. and they've told him that he is very likely to be traded, and that's why he's written that it's already written. I will state a few things, though. There were a few players on the Toronto Raptors that had actually put this picture up on their IG stories. Precious Achiuwa, Christian Koloko, and Chris Boucher had put this up, and multiple Raptors players had liked his IG post as well. So it really makes you question, if he's getting traded, why would they post that on their stories? Like maybe it's like a goodbye. I mean, you look at the picture. I'll post it again. Put it up here once again. It almost seems like he's exiting Toronto. It's black. It's gray and black, black and gray. I can't speak here, guys. It's 4:30 in the morning here, but it's kind of confusing, right? Like it almost seems like he's exiting out of Toronto. And the other theory that some fans are suggesting is that it's already written. Apparently, he's already signed a contract extension. I don't know how much truth there is to that, but this is obviously very interesting. You can make this however you want. I think it most likely means that he knows that he's going to get traded. I don't necessarily think it's a contract extension, but I still find it really weird that he would post this on Instagram, and then you have players liking this, like NBA players like Fred VanVleet, Malachi Flynn, and his teammates like this, which makes no sense. Like, why would they be liking a post where he's almost saying, maybe it's a way of saying goodbye to him? I don't know. But you can make this however you want to be. I want to hear your thoughts on not only this, these OG Anunoby crazy rumors. I'm very intrigued to see what you guys think of this. And as always, I do have a trivia question for you today. And the trivia question is, which of these broadcasters was the very first Raptors broadcaster? Is it A, Matt Devlin? Is it B, John Saunders? Is it C, Chuck Swirsky? Or is it D, Jack Armstrong? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video. But that will be it for today's video, guys. So thank you so much for your support of this channel. If you're still watching, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well. We're almost close to 4,000 subscribers, and that will be it for today's video. So thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.